Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Thursday, the 5th day of May, 2022. Well, not only is it Cinco de Mayo, it's my wedding anniversary. So we've been married 43 years today, so that's very cool. And we're going to do a little barbecue tonight, even though it's raining. Hopefully it'll quit after a point here, but because I don't have like a cover over the grill area. But anyway, we're still going to do it anyway. Let's see. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm gonna read the esoteric influences for today. That's from the weekly post I do over on the blog at Stepping Aside. The address there is imsteppingaside.com. If you click on show more below the video here, there'll be just kind of a little thing about what I do and what this is all about. And then below that, you'll see links to wherever I am on social media and also to the blog. So anyhow, with the 5th day of May, we have a 5 numerology for today, just the day itself. Now, this is not considered the life path or anything. That's the whole month, date, and year. You get that when you look at that numerologically. That's how you derive the life path. But we're just going to look at the day for the purposes of this. And so with 5, you have protection, freedom versus restriction, creativity, travel, innovation, and change. It can also indicate the pentagram. The rune today from the Elder Futhark is Awaz. Looks like the letter M. It means horse or momentum or change or intuitive bond, partnership, binding toward mutual end. It can be used in trance work. You can use it as sort of a portal. You can visualize it and visualize yourself going through it when you're doing meditation or any kind of trance working if you're doing that. Let's see, the Geomancy Rune for today. The Elder Futhark rune would be the as above side. The below side is Geomancy. Fortuna Minor means lesser fortune, progressive success, external assistance, so assistance from others. The sun's in Taurus, the moon's in Cancer. My granddaughter is a Cancerian. She turns 5 this year. She's just incredible. My 2 grandsons are also incredible, but the firstborn is always, I don't know. She's just cool. I don't know what else to say about her. But the planetary governance for Thursday is Jupiter if you work in magic today. And so you engage well with others and you provide an inspiring perspective. However, you may want to seek advice from a trusted person today if pursuing a new course or direction, especially if it seems like the situation is progressing too quickly. So that you don't come across as impulsive or pursuing a single-minded agenda, it may be necessary to give a detailed explanation of your position. It may also be true that others involved don't possess your natural awareness or intrinsic sense of timing, so listen with an open mind and heart to any concerns expressed and respond with respect and sincerity. Sometimes things can just get going too fast, you got to slow it down a little bit and be sure of what's really happening. Otherwise, you find yourself in spots where you're like, well, God, how'd I get here? That's kind of what that's about today. So a little bit of momentum type of energy. So let's take a look at the rune, though, for today for the reading. Lately, we've been either the rune or the Geomancy Rune has been the same as what's been on the esoteric influences. Let me get that out of the way here. And let's see. Well, it's the next one in line. It's Mannaz. Mannaz is a very complex rune. It's the individual in society. It's a interesting rune in that it incorporates so many different runic energies. You can see Dagaz in the center. In fact, I'll just explode it for you here so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's see if I get something that actually writes here. So here you have Mannaz. It means man or humanity. But think about it in terms of individual within society. So it's a little bit more comprehensive than Awaz. Awaz comes first, then Mannaz. And so whereas Awaz is maybe binding like a partnership coming together of 2 people. Mannaz is more complex. It's more people than that. It's a bigger group. But here I'll just start. You have X in the middle, which is Gebo, which is balanced energy exchange, the gift of reciprocity. From there you can see Dagaz, which is day, new beginnings. You have one period ending and a new one beginning. Exploded all around it is Kinaz, or the light of spirit, the torch. Well, that top one kind of looks like a check mark, doesn't it? I'm getting sloppy. But in the center here, you also have Vunyo, which is fellowship and joy, forward and reversed. So you can see the emotional side of this as well. It's not just the higher self side, but the emotion of it. You also have Laguz, which is flow from spirit, forward and reversed, like I said. And then you have Isa on either end, which is the Norn rune for the static realm or the present moment. It's alignment and spirit. So it's bringing spirit awareness basically into society, instead of it being so ego-driven like it seems to be these days, where people are wanting to do as they please and they don't understand the collective aspect of self. I think the collective aspect of self is really signified by Mannaz. It's not just man. It's really, and I hate the word mankind, but humankind. That's what it is. It's humanity coming together in shared purpose, in fellowship, in joy, letting one period end and a new one beginning, to embrace the new opportunities together. So that's really what that's about. Now, that would be the as above side, the spirit side of the reading. And I like to take the runes, and I like to essentially make them the significators of the reading. And then when we do the cards, I'll do 3 and maybe 4. We'll just see. But I'll start out with 3. And they kind of give the details, but they can also shape the definition of the 2 runes as well. And here, like we had Fortuna Minor for the Geomancy Rune for today from the Esoteric Influences, we have Fortuna Major, its complement for here. So whereas one is progressive steps, like baby steps, this would be Fortuna Minor. This is Fortuna Major. So this is really reaching the goal of understanding the collective aspect of self. We come into this life through the veil of forgetting. Well, some people don't necessarily forget so much. Children really don't. But over time, it's basically shaped out of them that we're all one, that we all come from one singularity, one creative influence. We come from one creator, and we're just aspects of that creator. And if you think about it, if you think all the cells in the body, they have to all work together or the body doesn't function well, does it? You start having little issues here and there, and it affects everything. Well, same thing in society. You start having little issues here and there, and we don't understand that we're really on the same shared path. And that we don't make that our focus. Instead, we're pulling at one another and being at loggerheads all the time. So to have the final successful goal of Fortuna Major with Mannaz, well, then what you're really it's really defining the idea of the collective, or understanding the collective aspect of self as the final goal of awakening, if you will, in terms of who we are in form. Some people would say, and I tend to adopt the same belief, that when we look out, we populate our experiences with what we need to see in order to learn and grow and all of that. And so the experiences we have, the perception are often governed by perception. And so we can perceive things any way we want to. That's why you could take 10 people who experience the same thing and get 10 different ideas of what that was, right? So, anyhow, how are we going to see it? Are we going to see ourselves as us versus them? Are we going to see ourselves as part of the collective aspect of self? And the collective aspect of self would be a more higher resonance type of a vision or perception than seeing everything as either or. there's a if you look at the Kabbalion, which is an esoteric piece that's out there, you're looking at the idea from wholeness. That's why geomancy is such an interesting, especially if you're using geomancy runes for divination. You're looking at wholeness. When you look at Fortuna Major and Fortuna Minor, you're looking at a single concept, both sides of the single concept, but you have to look at it in terms of wholeness. And so I'm so glad we got that today, given that we have Fortuna Minor in the esoteric influences for Thursday, and then we get Fortuna Major, so it gives me a chance to talk about that. Whereas Fortuna Minor it's still success, but it's progressive. But with Fortuna Major, it's the windfall basically, and it's the end of something, where you've done all of the Fortuna Minor stuff, and now you've gotten to the Fortuna Major part of it, where you're reaping the benefit of everything you've done, all the work you've done. So both are very positive runes. So but let's take a look at the first three cards today. Well, okay, we've got one card from the Major Arcana, the Emperor. That's the fourth card, card 4. We have the Seven of Cups and we have the Page of Cups. So emotions, intuition, empathy, all of that, that's going to change. Also, and again, change is part of Ewaz in today's esoteric reading. But with the Page of Cups, you've got new emotion. It's like he's standing there offering his. You can see the little fish coming out of his chalice. There's a card of Pisces, obviously. Very emotional. You don't see calm waters behind, but you do see the line of demarcation here. So he's standing on firmer ground. Well, sandy ground, but it's firmer than, of course, the water's going to be, obviously. You see lots of blues in his attire. A little bit of pink, though, or salmon color. Maybe the fish is actually a salmon. I don't know, little baby salmon. But the idea is he's standing there and he's looking kind of back into a prior experience. And he's holding his chalice out and offering love and healing and understanding and compassion. So you look at pages, and I talked about this the last time. Might have been on Monday or it might have been last week, but I talked about how I see the page, the ace, and the fool as all undeveloped potential. Always something new is possible. And so with pages, oftentimes they're thought of to be students, messengers, depending, on the suit and the element. They could be risk takers, although usually you think that more so of knights, but because they're out on their quest, right? But pages are usually thought of as students, and so the most youthful member of the court. You're going to go up next in age to the knight and then the queen and the king. And in some decks, pages can be called princesses, just like knights can be called princes. So it just depends on the deck that you're using. The more non-traditional decks will probably not call them pages and knights. They'll probably call them princesses and princes. But the youthful side of things, the inquisitive, the new, the creative, the possibility of, all of that is inherent in the page. And so if we're looking at in terms of cups and an offering, then something has happened that you need to have some compassion for, that you need to think about it in a new way, think about it in a way that maybe you haven't before, and see it as something where you can offer compassion to somebody, offer love and understanding to somebody. Now, we're probably going to put these in different orders here, but here we have the Seven of Cups. You see a bunch of chalices with a bunch of stuff coming out. See a head here, a snake here, a hat. Is that a hat or a fan? No, I think that's one of those funny looking hats. I don't think that's a fan. Kind of looks like a mushroom sticking up. But those hats, were they the French military wore? I don't know. Did Napoleon wear one that looked like that? That's what it reminds me of. You see a castle up with that's way up here at the very top. of a big well, rock for better for it's not really a mountain because it's like a peak with a castle up at the top. You see these look like riches here, and you see a wreath for victory, and then you see, oh gosh, that's one of those other elementals. Is that a it looks like might be a griffon, but I'm not sure. But the idea here, you can look at this card in a variety of ways. You can look at this as self-deception, being unrealistic, because the clouds in the back are gray. They're not white. They're not dissipating. It could be the stuff of dreams. But the idea is that there's a sense of unrealism, a lack of realism here. Now, 7 is about observation. It's also about spirituality. It's about bringing things to balance. So it's a nice scales type of a number. But again, are you? The other part here is that the guy is completely, in shadow, essentially. So you can look at this as a lack of balance, a lack of emotional balance. You can also, I don't know, depending upon the reading, I kind of see it as dreaming new dreams. You get out of the way of everything that's going on around you, and that's why the person is in shadow. And you're considering all of your potentialities of life, all the things you might want to do, both realistic and unrealistic. It doesn't matter. Lots of really successful projects started in something where it's like, oh, that's not going to work. That'll never happen, and all of that. And without that time to dream, something new, how do you know? And so I hate to put this card in a negative light ever, but it could be that maybe if we put this one first and then looked at the page, I don't know, maybe somebody who's being very unrealistic, or maybe you've been really unrealistic about something that's going on. You've got all these ideas about what's really going on and it's not true. Or it just seems to me with the offering, though, you're either offering compassion to yourself and letting yourself off the hook for all of it, or you're letting somebody else know that, hey, I know you've been kind of not yourself these days, and you've kind of been focused on things that really aren't true. You've been trying to focus on all these other things instead of living in the present moment. And I'm just offering you some compassion and understanding for what you've been going through. You could see these two cards like that. Again, with Mannaz, you're looking at a component of that of Vunyo, where you are in fellowship and joy with somebody else. And so, but again, so you can also extend that to yourself. If you've been yourself a little unrealistic about things, if you've been following a movement that's not even real, that's, you're being manipulated, in other words. You could look at this 7 of Cups as self-manipulation, being too focused on things that are unrealistic. And then maybe you see that with the page, and you're starting to rethink all of it and say, well, but instead of beating yourself up about it, you've got to extend yourself some compassion and understanding. I don't know. But if it's really, though, about you doing that for someone else, it could just simply be that there's been a situation where you've been apart and you see the person is struggling, and now you're coming back and you're saying, look, I'm here for you. It could be something like that as well. But then comes the Emperor, a card of Aries. You can tell because of the ram's heads all over his throne there. Now, the Emperor's about structure. He's also authority. He's somebody that... The thing about the Emperor is I tend to see him, as well as the kings of the court, all 4 kings, as people that can go either way in terms of that authority. They can either be the wise mentor, or they can be cruel and bigoted and authoritarian. Perhaps We could start with the Emperor. If this is about you offering compassion to someone else, perhaps the individual in the 7 has been manipulated by the Emperor or someone in authority who's demanded this or that, and you've had to basically follow somebody that did not have your best interests at heart, and so you're out there in left field somewhere, and then the Page of Cups comes along and says, well, wait a minute, I see what's happening to my friend or to my brother or my sister or my parents or whatever, or my coworkers. I see what's happening to them. They're struggling, and I'm here to offer compassion and understanding. Because at the end of the day, the overall success, the overall Fortuna Major that you have is through the realization that we really are one entity, and we don't need pieces of us struggling this way. It's not necessary. It's not necessary to understand who we are as the other side of self. You have the self and the other side of self, you see. We don't need that struggle to understand that it's really one part of the whole picture. Okay? So you could take this and you could then if you wanted to say the 7 first, you've got your head in the clouds, then you gain some compassion and understanding that's maybe from a higher level or from someone else. And then you're able to use your inner authority to stand up and realign yourself in a way that the authority comes from spirit instead of from ego. There's just, the Emperor is somebody, though, I gotta say that I always feel like there's a level of ego there. I mean, it can be the father aspect with the Empress being the mother aspect, so you can look at them together. But at the same time, there's a projective energy there that doesn't necessarily take into account the whole notion of service to others. It's just service to self. So there's that aspect of it. I just don't know that that's really, unless this is the catalyst for this, okay, which, there's no reason necessary based on the runes to think that that's so. I really think it's probably more that we need to exercise the inner authority to understand when we're being sold a bill of goods and we're being forced to believe in things, or we're brought along with others in a group where we're believing things that are not realistic and really aren't going to get us anywhere. But at some point, either someone's going to come in, maybe it's you, that says to that person, look, I see what you're going through, and I'm here for you. I understand how you got caught up in all of this stuff, and now it's time that I'm kind of your off-ramp. I'm somebody that's not going to judge you for that. I'm somebody that's simply going to be here for you. Maybe that's what you're going to do today for someone else. And you help them gain the inner authority and the strength, because there's certainly strength associated with the Emperor. Strength and resolve. Back here, well, it almost kind of looks like the head of a lion, but it's not. This is actually the dark and light of challenges, because these are actually probably mountains or something mountainous like rock structures. But you have one that's yellow or light colored, and you have one that's brown, and so you could think of polarity there. And so you're looking at balanced polarity there that he's trying to achieve. But you also see the fact that he's got this red cloak over the fact that he's wearing, probably those are a suit of armor, basically. You can see the boots underneath there. So this is just a card of strength and purpose and taking that next step and having the will to move forward and to assert yourself in a way that doesn't reflect a bunch of madness or a bunch of your head in the clouds, basically. You can see, because the problem with this is you've got the darker clouds here, and that's deception. So you're deceiving yourself, maybe. or someone else you know is deceiving themselves, and they're not exerting the inner authority that they have. And when they do, then they understand the cause and effect of things, which is also part of Mannaz. We see the cause and effect of society right now, how that's manifesting. And instead of being on a shared path, it's, we're doing this. And in order to get through that, see, we're going to have to understand that that's just an illusion. You can also look at this as an illusion. And we've deluded ourselves into thinking something that's just not true. It's not sustainable. It's not right. It's not just. It's not fair. And in order to get out of that, maybe there's somebody who's willing to come along and offer the compassion that we need to drop resistance and to let go of it and to forgive ourselves. And then to forgive ourselves for thinking we ever needed to forgive ourselves, because we don't. These are just experiences. We don't need to judge them either way, but we need to figure out what's working and what isn't. And this is not going to work. And so you either need to show some compassion for yourself, or someone else needs to come in and show compassion for you, or you need to do that for someone else today. And again, that reflects the Mannaz of everything, understanding self within society and the obligation that we have to one another to keep everybody on a shared path. Doesn't mean we'll agree all the time, and that's fine. We're always going to be redefining that. But it's still got to be there, Otherwise, we fall apart. So the emperor then comes in, and it's like, let's restructure this, and let's get back on a path where we're asserting ourselves in a way that we're not being duped by other people. We're not being led down the garden path. We can see things for what they are. We can see the truth for what it is, and we move forward together from that point. So that's pretty cool for a Thursday, for my anniversary. 43 reduces to 7. So observation, spirituality, balance, and all of that. So anyhow, I guess that's it. That's all I have. I think this is an interesting one, though, because you can consider it from two different perspectives. Either you're the one that needs the compassion, or you need to offer it to someone else and help them understand that they do have the strength to establish a real path for themselves that's not predicated upon either manipulation by someone else or self-delusion or illusion or whatever, because I think that, unfortunately, there's a component of that right now. With Mannaz, it suggests society, and I think that we've all seen it. And unless you're part of it, you don't realize what it looks like to everybody else. But you've got a whole bunch of people who are watching this play out and going, "Oh no!" And we see it. We see what's happening. We see the manipulation. We see all of it, and it's a scary thing. We watch friends, we watch loved ones, we watch coworkers succumb to this, and it's very difficult to see that happen because we love them, and we don't want to see that happen to anybody. Even if we don't like somebody, we don't want to see them end up like that. The whole cult stuff that's going on, I think, is just a real problem here right now. And it's causing people to behave in ways that will never get them what they think they're going to get. It's just not going to happen. They're being used, they're being manipulated, and that's the truth of it. And they need to see it. And so maybe today, you may find someone waking up, and you need to be there to help them do that. So, anyhow, let them learn to re-express their inner authority in a way that protects them from stuff like that. So, thanks for watching, and have a good weekend. We're supposed to get rain today. It's already been raining. So our weather right now in the high desert is so strange. They're calling for snow on Sunday, so I don't even know. In May. That's all right. We're still planting things, getting the gardens ready. We've been doing that for the last few days. It's been fun. I fell down. That was not fun, but I'm okay. I didn't get hurt. So I just toppled over. I lost my balance, climbing over a log. because I haven't figured out yet that I'm too old to do those kinds of things. So anyway, thanks again for watching, and come back on Monday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.